Ian, on a lighter subject, another company that was ran into the ground and didn't even release a real product besides those physical trinkets I have on the ground, the Intellivision Amico, which then became Amico, which is now, what is it, Home Games, whatever the hell
Happy Home Games
Games
is a publisher for Amico Games or something along those lines.
Well, one of the things that happened during our coverage of the Amico, starting really more in force in 19 and then off the rails in 2020, once we pointed out correctly 6 months beforehand that the console was not going to come out when they said that would, and then all hell broke loose.
Yeah, that was really it when we started to look at the timelines and poke holes in the timelines. That's when he got real pissed.
It was May, June of 2020. When I realized, Pat and Ian are going to ruin it for me and my potential investors and us getting bought out maybe by Microsoft or whatever. Or Sony's going to buy our company. Anyway, one of the things we said at the time was, because since no one was saying anything internally, was let's hope that if they sign NDAs, eventually they run out. Even you can have an NDA even in perpetuity. I think that those are mostly illegal. You can't have someone not speak for 20, 30 years. You know more about that than me. Usually it's like a few years. There you go. You're done. But
same with
non-competes.
Yeah.
And actually, most of non-competes have been thrown out more and more in general, where it's like they're just not legal. More and more. I've been thrown out.
Yeah, I've been dealing with. Yeah, that's actually been like on my mind a lot lately.
I know federally there's been challenges to non-competes and things like that. I kept up a little bit. Anyway, so we always said that, well, what happens when the people working there speak out? Well, this news isn't someone that worked there, but it was a potential developer for the Intellivision Amico, and it was an AMA.
Yeah, not a lot of bombs, only because it seems like what we assumed was largely true about a lot of it. But it's nice to have. There's no way to verify it. This person speaks vaguely about where they worked, and I have some guesses, but I'm not going to make them publicly.
You didn't tell me that. You have guesses. Okay.
Yeah, I do.
This is on the Intellivision_Amico subreddit, by the way.
So, yeah. So they even said you can take whatever I say with a grain of salt if you want. They were most of the time if it's someone who's not and they get pushed against, they flip out. This person's like, you don't have to believe me. But
first of all, the poster's name is "My Mom is Very Proud."
Yes,
which became a meme after the H Bomber guy video pointing out that Tommy's go-to hack joke was always "My mother is very proud." I don't know if that's why they chose their name, but if they,
someone in there said that it's a one-off account for not anonymity.
Let's do the first question here. Why did your company decide to work on Amico? Did you have any good Tommy or Phil stories? How did you feel you were treated overall? Do you think that Intellivision was honest and fair to deal with? This is from Brandon Unaware. And then the answer: money is money in the end. When you need a project that one comes along, you take it. Also, as far as I know, my old boss had some sort of deal with Intellivision to maybe be brought on as the main dev company for the console, which would be something if the console had some sort of player base. I don't know Tommy prior to the call, and I admit I was kind of impressed. He gave the whole worked on Sonic and Metroid talk. Later I realized that it was word for word the same one that he gives all the time. Phil, in contrast, is way less charismatic on first impressions alone, but he would always stress how he wasn't getting paid as well. So we should continue. He
wasn't getting paid as well as us.
Gotcha.
In addition to us, he was also not getting paid.
Oh, it wasn't. Oh, it should be comma as well.
Yes.
Gotcha. A little grammar thing.
I think that's what.
That's why commas are important. They change the meaning of a sentence out there. All in all, they both talked a lot and said very little. Overall, I am of the opinion that the thing was a scam. They knew they had not enough money and the hardware was shit. But I think in their minds there was maybe a 5% chance it would take off with a lot of unpaid help. So they saw no risk for themselves and maybe a payday in the future. Okay. So I always take umbrage with using the word scam. Well, I don't think it should apply. To me, it was a horrible business model probably, but not an outright scam at that point. They wanted to get the cheapest possible games so their console could levitate as to a product people wanted to buy to get more investors, and they wanted to get buyout. They had an exit strategy.
When I say it wasn't a scam at that point and it evolved into a scam later on, it's not to be nice to Tommy. It's because words mean things.
Yes.
And just because it wasn't a scam doesn't mean that it wasn't any worse.
Yes. It's still a bad product.
It's still a bad product, a bad idea, and someone who's too full of themselves to realize it.
A product that has a 5% chance of success isn't a scam on its surface. It's just a bad idea that's badly executed. Okay. Next question here. Let's see. From Tommy Poopy Pants. This is a lot. I'll try to get through quickly. Around what time did your interactions with Tommy and Phil take place? Did you see them in person? Was it virtual? Any concerns around COVID? They said it rather not say at this time, but it was all virtual too. Did they provide any developer support beyond the target hardware? Do you still have prototype testing hardware, Unity 3D, and their leaky dev portal? Can you confirm that the material seen in this press story is true and accurate, meaning the ones reported on at the time?
So, I mean, I can paraphrase the answer. So they say to the second question, no, the dev board was pretty much a dev board, a motherboard in a carton box. And Alvarado answered questions on the dev portal, but apart from that, he did not really have any contact.
Sure. Then they said you shouldn't feel bad for feeling impressed by Tommy Tallarico because that was his shtick. He tried to get you into his web,
right?
Which is fine. Some people are more, I don't want to say susceptible, but some people are, or we'll just say less hardened by this versus someone like me and Ian, where we look out for the bullshit a little bit more because we're used to seeing it, in this field.
Another question from him was, you shouldn't feel bad for, right. So do you have any lasting contact with Tommy or Phil? Did you cut ties when it was clear that they were unable to pay their bills? And did Phil ever explain why he would take an unpaid volunteer job in this ragtag company? The response was he doesn't have any contact anymore. And Tommy went quiet. Phil started ghosting him afterwards when he started asking about money. And then Phil also said he explained that he had enough money that he worked for all his life and was currently living with his daughter in her house, so he didn't need much.
All right, that's uncomfortable.
Also, he was just that big of a believer, he said.
That's not comfortable. Did you ever get to use the controller in person? This is from a deleted user. Yes, and let me tell you how dog shit it is.
This is my favorite response because it just
it proves that we were right about this whole time. The screen does not respond half the time. On multiple controllers, the screen did not work at all. Didn't even show a picture. The buttons on the side were very loose, so you would never know if you had pressed them or not. But all that was better than what we had before. We had to download a .apk for the phone to emulate the controller, which is what they're using now on the fucking Google Play and the iStore. Apple Store. But on a screen, you cannot really tell if you had pressed the directional disc and where you pressed it. Combined with a ridiculous lag, it was hell. They had suggested we buy some physical controller sticks and put them on the phone screen so we would have haptic feedback. Oh my God. But that was going to be their solution for you don't want to buy another expensive controller? You get the phone app. And it would have been shit. And the regular controller's shit.
Right.
It's just all shit.
And so someone asks, and remember, some listeners may remember that one of the few positive things that I said about the Amico was after they showed Breakout, I was like, oh, that'll be pretty cool with how the dial rotates. Because Tommy made a big deal about showing how the dial rotated in an early video. And so this person asked, did the disc on the controller feel as bad as it looked? Worse, it was able to spin, but no game to my knowledge used that feature, so it always just felt like it was broken or you were doing something without the game reacting.
We saw that in videos. Yeah, you can spin it besides pressing, but why would you need that if you're usually going to be pressing
Because I don't know where it was, but Tommy tried to explain it out about precision and how you could rotate it to where you wanted and then press down or something. It was just
a word salad?
It was just a word salad, like it usually is.
Oh, by the way, they responded and then edited out what game they did work on here, so they did provide evidence and probably realized, oh, we should probably take that out of here. So I didn't see this because someone asked, what games can you at least give us one game? They edited out the response.
I wonder if they were so vague through most of this. I wonder if they said something and then just were like, even at vague, that's too much.
Yeah, so looks like they did present some evidence because Gatoru's responded, did your company retain the rights to the game/code? They said, nope, all rights belong to Intellivision. I'm no longer with the company. As far as I know, no one was in touch with the Amico home, and self-releasing it might run into some messy rights issues. Yeah, I wonder if they got rights through saying, hey, it's going to come out in the Amico. What happens if they try to release the games on the mobile devices if that goes against the agreements?
We've talked about that before, and we feel like that's why so many of these games had delays. Not only were they not finished, but a lot of them, I think they had the rights problems with. Because remember, it took over a year and 2 months from when Alvarado first said that Finnegan Fox was going to be on Amico Home to it finally arriving. I just also want to point out real quick the controller question. The person said that it felt like an 8-way input. And Tommy always said that it was
like a
supposed
64?
It was 64, yeah. And this Tommy Poopy Pants follows up with that, saying it was supposed to have 64 directions, which is what I thought.
Yeah.
So that's
which you don't need for most things unless it's an analog spinner. You might as well just do a spinner.
right.
At that
And
point.
that's what he said, that the
spinner was supposed to
what
be?
you were gonna, so you could like lock into like a certain direct. What game?
There's no game with the 64 input to lock in. There's none. They don't exist.
And we have talked about this in the past. I know we did that. I said, I asked, what game is going to be improved by a 64-degree input? And there just isn't one.
None. It has to be analog at that point.
Or 64 input.
It has to be a spinner at that point.
Yeah.
It has to be totally analog. You go analog or you go 8-way. That's it. Like that's what you should know. This is a question about the hardware. This is from Thunder Exception. I wish I had the clip where Tommy said something about how they engineered the Amico to be even more powerful than the current gen consoles on 2D because the hardware was optimized for just 2D. The answer was basically, since the Amico is basically just a phone you develop just like you would for any Android device, the API we got from Intellivision got us some functions we could use to interact with the controller. So for example, you would normally wait for a touchscreen input. You now just wait for the Intellivision touchscreen input. So it's almost like it was like off the shelf Android shit is what it was.
Furthering that, someone asked if they had finished any of the games they were working on, and they said both of their projects were technically completed, but some performance problems. I don't think anyone at Intellivision has the time or skill to fix those. I have personally seen one other completed project, but I never tried it on the console. Might be the same problem, and that is the performance. Graphics being the biggest bottleneck, just wasn't there. When you try to bring any game, 3D games with cool effects on modern HD TVs, you have to support it with your hardware, go with a style that allows downgrading your assets, blah, blah, blah. So basically, the power that was available, and I think I've heard this other places too, wasn't really enough to run the games that were being made.
And why do you say that? Well, we didn't plan this. Disaffected L Shaw asked, Disaffected L Shaw, how powerful was the Amico? How difficult or limiting was the Amico to make games run on it? Did Tommy or Phil Adam have any understanding on the technical aspects of working on video games post 2010? And do some people say that video games are the cause of violence? Sarcasm. Okay.
One speaks to my point.
How powerful? Worse than the old test Android phone we used as controller. Worse, they said. I might have a technical document somewhere, but I have to look. Remember the Sam Mekovich article said it was like a 2015 or 16 iPhone.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even think it was an iPhone. I think they just said it was a 2015 Android.
It was an average Android phone.
Snapdragon, if I remember correctly.
Sorry, not iPhone, which would have been a little bit better than a little bit. That. Yeah. Okay. Number 2, how difficult the living was on the Amico. Using 3D assets, we really were at the edge at all times. We had to optimize where we could, and we even threw out some stuff that the console could not handle. And they said, did Tommy or Phil have an understanding of the technical aspects? Not as far as I saw it. They were mostly hype men to tell you how awesome everything was going to be and keep you working, preferably without pay. And that was the whole model. Just hype and getting games on here before people realize, hey, this is a bad idea. Maybe I shouldn't be slaving away in a game that might never come out in here. And I can just release it on Steam or on another console. Like the new Breakout, for example, where it's like, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. Why would I waste my time? Get suckered in by Tommy, and eventually you're like, what reason comes back into it? It's like, I gotta shift. This is crazy.
A few more.
That's mostly the highlights, but there's a few more.
What was I looking? Let me just see. This one I wanted to. Were there games built from the ground up or based on previous released Unity games like Finnegan Fox? That's what they were asked. From the ground up in one case and based on an existing IP on the other. So I think whenever someone had an existing code base to cut costs, they would dust that off, which is what we knew, sure. And everyone knew.
Let's get them as many games as we can as cheaply as possible. What's the strategy?
Yeah, I guess that really is.
Well, we know they're on different consoles. If you're out there, you got another week to get in early on the Nintendo Switch summer sale right now on these Amico games that are available. Evel Knievel, Finnegan Fox, and Cornhole are supposedly discounted 20% off.
To what price?
I don't have it in front of me. There's no hyperlinks on here. You think they would have that, but they don't. Let's see. I'll try to find it right now.
But I do just want to say this is a good one to close this on. Were there any specific moments in time maybe when the news about something came out or payments were missed, when you or your boss began to think something was up with Intellivision. Like, you think this might be a scam or whatever. And they said, for me personally, it was working with this motherboard in a cardboard box and the phone controller every day. One day I was like, seems weird, but I think the nostalgia market is big, so it might work out. And the next I was like, no way this will ever see the light of day. After I found out about Tommy, I became convinced of the scam. And again, scam later on. But yeah, anyways. So
Evil Knievel right now is only $11.99 on Switch.
Okay. So yeah, so then they'll be 14. Yeah, 14.
They were $14.99.
Yeah.
$11.99. There's no sign of what the other price is.
So this is something that someone mentioned on the board. That's the launch price. It doesn't say it's on sale. So that's what I'm trying to say.
So that means that they're going to raise the price later?
Yes.
Manually?
Yep. Exactly. So stupid. Normally when a game launches and it's on sale, you see the standard price with a red slash through it, and it says sale, and then the sale price underneath. They just released it at $11.99, and now they're going to have to go through and raise the price. And no one, that's going to make things worse.
I didn't hear it was what?
They're racists. They're literally gaming racists.
You know, the more people I talk to about the Tommy story that mention that, or I say, do you realize that he was referencing us when he was saying the gaming racist? Like, we were like, who he was mostly referencing?
There have been times where someone
you have to remind people that it was us. Yeah, we are the gaming racists.
We are. Oh boy.
I mean, it wasn't mentioned in H Bomber Guy's video. It would have been nice. It's like, hey, we're the gaming racists, by the way. That was.
All right.
We were the tip of the spear of the gaming racism. So anyway, that's just a fun thing. It's always a good idea to fake a sale right after your games come out on a console because no one's buying them and no one cares. And then finally, I guess there's news about Tommy had an announcement recently.
Oh, so I just want to bring this up.
You didn't put the link down for me. I don't have the link.
Oh, I thought I did. Sorry.
Oh, there it is. Big announcement.
I don't try to. I try to keep the stuff on Amico, and I try not to lash out at the Tommy stuff that went on. And what an asshole he was. But on May, he said, tonight will be May 30th. He said, tonight will be my 550th performance of Video Games Live. What a journey. Thank you to all the game music fans from around the world that have supported us. Big announcement coming on July 6th. 5 and 0s. Big announcement, the 20-year anniversary of our first performance, which took place at the legendary Hollywood Bowl. And I'm not going to read all of this, but here's the quote-unquote big announcement. I'll read the first paragraph. On this day 20 years ago, we performed our very first Video Games Live. It took place at the Hollywood Bowl. We had game industry luminaries and celebrities from around the world who showed up to see this most groundbreaking event. The weight of the world was on our shoulders that day.
Oh, life and death, Tommy.
Our goal was to prove to the world how culturally significant and artistic video games and their music had become. As with most goals and dreams, there were many doubters. Always got to bring up doubters, even where there probably weren't.
There was any doubters.
But the massive success of... He's always got to... It's impossible for him to not portray it as a Rocky story. There were many doubters, but the massive success of that day helped catapult game music into the mainstream and start us on a 20-year journey to 42 countries and 550 performances. So the rest of this post is just him name-dropping people he hasn't worked with in probably 20 years.
Licenses he got from people.
Licenses at the time. Richard Jacques for his epic talent. Like, the thing is, Stan Lee, Elijah Wood, and
What? Stan Lee?
And other big celebrities who helped make it a red carpet.
Gary Coleman.
Yes,
referenced.
Yeah, he mentions Vince Desi for always believing and supporting me, and for bringing Gary Coleman with him to the show. I want to stop here and state that this word vomit, it's just so. It's so desperate, and from a man so desperate for attention that he feels like he has to name drop Gary Coleman in this announcement. And I just want to let you know, there is no announcement anywhere in this post. His big announcement was self-aggrandizement and a long list of thank yous. There's no announcement. No announcement for a date, no announcement for an anniversary show. Nothing. It's not an announcement in any way, shape, or form.
The 550th was on May 30th. Now this announcement is 6 weeks later.
Because it was the anniversary. Because the 6th is the anniversary.
Okay.
So he did it, but that also says you're not doing these very often. If May 30th was the last show you did between now and then.
Oh, there are a lot less. I will point out this. There is an Amico connection here because he does thank his best bud, David Perry, for always believing in me. David Perry, if you don't know, made a lot of money selling. Did he sell to Sony, or was it 15 years ago? He sold his business to Sony. I gotta look it up.
Shiny?
Anyway,
Or what? Well, Shiny Entertainment was him, but I don't think that was around even 15 years ago.
I'm not going to look it up right now.
Yeah.
The point is this, that David Perry reportedly helped bankroll a chunk of the Intellivision Amico
Yeah.
because he trusted Tommy and Tommy was his friend. And unfortunately, when you're a good friend, sometimes you get taken advantage of, as in this case.
And I want to finish this off by saying, without sounding too dramatic or whatever.
Be dramatic.
This to me is Tommy's way of trying to give himself a little shine for something he started 20 years ago.
On Facebook, by the way.
That is not nearly as popular as it once was. And then bring up a list of names that he is incredibly thankful for and that he thinks are going to make him look good. This is him trying to slowly grease his way back into, I think, video games, or at least public acceptance.
You think so?
Do not let this fucker redeem his name if he has not shown any remorse or any apologies, because he will keep doing this again.
It's beyond that.
It is.
It's beyond that because there's still people are owed money still.
I'm just trying to sound slightly less harsh. I don't think there's any way he can come back to video games. I think he's pretty much irredeemable. But do not let this person back in.
In our society, as we've seen with other avenues, the worst people can always come back and do something as long as there's some people that are willing to not care.
Well, I mean, what's next? His turn to be a right-wing grifter? I mean, like, is he going to start selling Freedom Water? I feel like
Freedom Water
was actually a thing. It was. I don't know if it still is.
You feel more freedom with every sip?
Yeah. Fucking fleeced. People just get fleeced. They're so happy to get fleeced.
They had those Freedom phones made from China, too. Those were the past couple of years. Anyway.
So, anyways, don't let... this doesn't work anymore. This is the sort of shit that he would put in a magazine article or say on Electric Playground. People would be like, oh, yeah, that Tommy is cool. But this, don't... We all know about him.
He's a pariah.
Don't let him change. Don't let him mold his image into the thing he wants you to see when the reality is
I don't call for people to, if he wants to do the video game lives, if he's licensing the music and everything's on the up and up, you can talk about history of whether or not people were paid fairly to perform or whatever. I've heard stories. We never talked about it. There was some sketchy stuff here and there that I've heard, but we didn't know enough to go into it. I don't know if you know what I know.
Yes.
But I've heard stories here and there. If he's doing it on the up and up, I don't care if he does the video games live, but he should never be involved in creating a new console or a new game or anything like that ever again.
Right.
He has not proven himself to be trustworthy. He's not proven himself to be a good person, of good character, in order to just waltz back in like nothing happens.
Don't let this person slink back into your good graces.
Yeah, he's fine. He's fine. He sold his house. He has money, whatever else. He's fine. He doesn't need your sympathy.
Let him, yeah.
He doesn't need your pity.